As many of you know, Mafia 3 was met with mixed critical reception, which begs the question, can the DLC fix some of the problems that plagued the base game? The first of the 3 story DLCs, Faster Baby, takes players to the new area of Sinclair Parish. As returning protagonist Lincoln Clay, players will meet up with the underground revolutionist leader known as The Voice, who is spearheading intelligence operations from a safe house on the outskirts of Sinclair Parish. Lincoln proceeds to team up with The Voice's daughter, Roxy Laveau, and heads into Sinclair Parish with the ultimate goal of taking down the corrupt, racist, and power-mad sheriff, Slim Beaumont, ending his reign of terror. The area is intended to be for whites only, and the local law enforcement is extremely racist. And while in the rest of New Bordeaux the police will show some restraint, in Sinclair Parish they will shoot you on sight just because you're a black man. Now, because this strong element of racial conflict is present in Mafia 3, Faster Baby is tonally compatible with the base game. And in moving on to talk about the missions, I have to acknowledge that the first mission sets this intended tone well, by simply taking the player into Sinclair Parish, and the police come after you immediately, which starts a car chase and you have to lose them, and then proceed to meet up with your contact in Sinclair Parish. And this all really established an element of danger at first, but the atmosphere created and overall believability quickly fade after this first mission, simply because this new area does not feel alive outside of the main missions. If you decide to explore this new area through free roaming, which I don't know why you would since there's nothing to do except for the main missions, it just doesn't feel alive because there is no threat. There are no cops roaming the town or the surrounding countryside, and it just feels barren, like there's nothing. In the main missions, you're seeing cops all over the place, but in free roaming, they're nowhere to be found. If you stick to the main missions though, which is what you should be doing, this can largely be avoided. There are 9 missions total. 5 of them main ones, only 3 of which are substantial, and only 2 that actually stand out, which are the last 2. There's 3 epilogue missions, which carry over the repetitive nature from the base game, all 3 of which consist of you killing marked targets and then returning to the mission giver. And then there's one optional side mission called Herbalism, which I will get to a bit later. The primary gameplay approach to most missions in this DLC focuses around car chases and vehicle mayhem, sort of Dukes of Hazzard or Blues Brothers style, which is actually quite fun, and hence why the DLC is named Faster Baby, because of its strong vehicular focus. This is especially the case after the mid-game, where you unlock the unique vehicle to this DLC called the Lassiter Nightcrawler, which is an armored 1960s coupe pickup. It's actually quite a beast of a vehicle and really fun to drive. And on that note, there's also one new weapon added to this DLC, and that is Roxy's silenced submachine gun, which unfortunately you can't unlock until you complete the final main mission of the DLC. Which, yes, you can do the epilogue missions using it, but I really don't like it when they give you the unique weapons at the end of the DLC or at the end of the game, because once you completed all the content, what's the point of having the weapon? I mean, I want to play the story content using this new gun. They restrict it to the very end. It's just a really stupid mistake in my opinion. Ultimately, it was the missions that were going to make or break this DLC, since that was the main thing that was wrong with Mafia 3. And there were some questionable approaches to these missions. The second to last mission, for example, was a vehicle mayhem mission where you're supposed to cause as much destruction as possible in the Nightcrawler, and this closely correlates with the structure of Mafia 3, where you had to cause so much damage to lure out the underbosses and whatnot. But it also reminded me a lot of the arcade structure to Mafia 2's DLC, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Those I actually liked the change to it, and it didn't have to be exactly the same as what Mafia 2 was. By far the more problematic factor is that the quality of missions is very inconsistent. The first mission, for instance, set the tone pretty well, but there was no follow-up to that, and it seemed kind of pointless, other than to be a smooth transition into the new area and allow you to meet up with MJ, who is your contact in Sinclair Parish. So overall, that mission became less memorable over time, even though it left an impact on me at first. And then perhaps the best example of poor or wasted mission design, excluding the epilogue content, comes 2 missions later in the one called New Shade of Green, in which Lincoln just carries a bag about 100 feet while there's some dialogue going on, and then there's a short cutscene, and that's it. It could have just as easily been an extended cutscene at the end of the last mission. There was no need to make it an entirely new mission. The fifth and final main mission, however, was relatively satisfying as it combined the solid gameplay found in Mafia 3 with the best parts of Faster Baby, namely the car chases, but it was still held back because the end came far too early after only about 2 to 3 hours, which is all the main and epilogue missions will take you to complete. And then the epilogue missions that followed felt forced, and they weakened the ending and the DLC as a whole because they were just rinse and repeat kill objectives. I'm honestly not sure why they added the epilogue missions on there. Maybe they just artificially extended it because they already felt that it wasn't long enough, which definitely was the case, but I think they would have been better off just scrapping that and even having the DLC slightly shorter. And lastly, there's the optional mission, Herbalism. You unlock this shortly after meeting MJ early on in the story. MJ is a Vietnam vet and he's running a marijuana grow house in Sinclair Parish. So what this is, it's just like in the base game where you have your lieutenants and there's little side tasks you can complete for them to add to your revenue, such as the moonshine, smuggling the semi-trucks for Vito, or getting the cars for Burke. The main difference with the Herbalism questline, though, is that you're actually creating your own strains of marijuana, fertilizing them, then waiting some time and coming back and harvesting them, and then selling them to your districts that you've already assigned to your lieutenants in the base game. And of course, depending on like the flavor and quality and what's in demand at that time through this in-game weed economy that they've created, you'll get different prices for your crop. Since I've already completed the game and pretty much have everything, it was kind of pointless because I didn't need more money, so I just did the very minimum, completing the first level of the quest. In my opinion, this questline is a waste of time and not worth doing at all. Maybe if you have all the DLC and you've just started playing through the game, then it might be worth it. But the time that it takes to grow the stuff, and then you have to come back and harvest it, it's just not worth the time if you've completed the game and you're just coming back for the DLCs, because it takes hours and hours and hours. I imagine if you tried to like 100% complete this quest line, it would probably take you 30 or 40 hours, which is like the length of the main game itself. It's ridiculous. And besides, to get the new strains, you have to go to certain places on the map where they've marked it, and usually they're like out in the bayou in the middle of nowhere, so you have to drive halfway across the map and then drive all the way back just to plant the damn thing. It's really stupid. And then add on the fact that I and many others aren't supporters of weed usage, it just makes you wish that they put this amount of detail and effort into some other element of this DLC, especially since this is one of the most significant parts of it. It is for sure the only true side content in this DLC. But that's just my opinion on it, and as I said, maybe if you are starting the game from scratch and you have this DLC, it'll be worth that to add money to your rackets and all that stuff. But just if you're coming to this DLC, regardless of whether or not you support weed usage, it's still probably not going to be worth it to you. So in conclusion, Faster Baby had a lot of potential, and there were actually a couple fun missions, especially the last two. But the shakiness of the rest of the missions, the tacked on nature of the epilogue missions, and the overall short length of the DLC altogether hold it back from where it could have been. While Mafia 3 suffered from problems such as repetition and too much filler content, its Faster Baby DLC is the opposite, instead suffering from short length due to lack of content, even though it still manages to carry over some of the repetitive elements from Mafia 3 that are present in the epilogue missions. For all these reasons, I can't recommend Faster Baby to any current owners of Mafia 3. And with that, I've arrived at a final score of a 5 out of 10 for this first DLC. For any of you who may be die-hard supporters of the game, there might be something in it for you, but for the rest, I just can't recommend it at the current value proposition, which at the current price of $15 equates to about $5 an hour for a mixture of content quality. It seems that this is setting a precedent for the other Mafia 3 DLCs, which is a shame because I think that this DLC could have tremendously benefited if it was twice the length and the epilogue missions were cut out entirely. So that wraps it up for this review, but at the end here, I just wanted to say that I had previously worked on a review for Mafia 3, but never quite completed the footage editing and all that stuff, but I did have the critique ready and a final score, which I also gave a 5 out of 10 to Mafia 3. So I hope this was helpful if you're looking into maybe buying this DLC, and if you've already played it, let us know what you think about it in the comments as well and give your opinions. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, we hope to see you guys in the next video.